afternoon. So, yeah, before we start, just want to mention about the next Tuesday class. Please, if anyone who do not think that is appropriate to conduct the class on next Tuesday and wish to rearrange, please let Chia know. And if no objections, so we will conduct the class as usual. So, the any comments or any objection, please raise up latest by Monday lah. Okay. So if let's say Monday, I will collect the consent from TA. So if let's say no objections, so I will assume everyone give your consent to conduct the class as usual lah. Okay. So that's all. For the next Tuesday. So today we will revise for morphological operations. The other thing is that later on after this class, 2 p.m., you all have the briefing for examination. Please make sure you all attend. Okay. Since this is the last semester, make sure you do not miss any important things, especially about examinations. Okay. So if you have a question, please feel free to raise during the briefing. And yeah. Okay, because some of the uh I mean rules and regulation would be different, because you all need to comply with the SOP. So the time frame that allowed you all to enter the hall, or the examination hall would be different from the previous one. Okay. So please do not assume that you already know, you already tried before the physical exam, so you can just ignore because some of the SOP is different. Okay. And the time for you to enter, the time which is not allowed to enter and etc. will be different. So please yeah, attend and make sure you all know lah. Okay. If you don't know, please, if you're unsure, please discuss or ask any of your colleagues. Okay. Make sure you are very clear. Do not miss any examination because of careless like that. Okay. So today we will go through the morphological operations and and okay. Why got this one? Mm, it's okay. So I'm not sure why there is the message you can mute someone else. Mm, oh, okay. Really. Okay. So today we will go through. For this 1 hour class, we will go through the morphology operations. If you have questions regarding this chapter, feel free to ask. Okay. Okay, so the fundamental operations or introductions, the main thing is erosion, dilation, opening, and closing. Okay, so erosion and dilation will be the basic of morphological operations, and by arranging erosion and dilations in conjunctions with a different sequence, you will create opening and also closing. The name for opening and closing is because of the functions. Okay, where the opening is actually can open up small, for example, the connections. So by using opening, you can actually remove the linkage between these two objects. Okay, but of course, you can use erosion to remove this, but nonetheless, the result may not be that ideal because when you use erosion alone, you may shrink the size of the original object. But of course, you can remove the link between these two objects. But nonetheless, the size, when you compare, you actually lost a lot of information, especially with regards to geometrical information. Okay, and dilation is meant to increase in size. So for the in industrial applications, actually the most common things to happen is that, for example, you have a die. maybe one, two, three. This is a common this is a common layout lah. Of course, the layout can be very, I mean, in great variety because you don't have a fixed layout. Nonetheless, what would be, I mean, you would expect on top of a die is that you would have an orientation pin. The orientation pin is that is this die located at the correct orientation? Because sometimes the die could appear like this one. To appear like this one. Okay, so which means it is in incorrect orientations. Okay, so this is so-called the orientation pin. And 1, 2, 3 is sort of serial number for the entire lot. Okay, sometimes it depends. Not a must for entire lot. And this is a matrix code which is specifically for this die alone. Okay, so the matrix code should be depends. Actually, matrix code don't have any special I mean, or any fixed format, but usually it will consist of uh ABC and then followed by a long 16 digit lah. Usually it's like that. Depends on the manufacturer. Okay. So what is die? Die is a DIE. Okay. This die is actually a very small part of the components whereby you have a PCB, right? I think you all did I mean fabricate the PCB, right? Maybe in second year or third year in one of the lab, you will fabricate the green color PCB, right? So the green color PCB, you have a lot of different components inside. For example, an IC, okay, integrated circuit. So you have different in the circuit name, right? I mean the IC name. So in each IC, the IC is actually quite visible lah. What I mean visible is that maybe it is a like 0.5 mm or maybe more than that. Okay, but the die is only one small component inside the IC. So this is so-called a die. Okay, so in engineering, I mean in semiconductor we have front of line, end of line. Okay, uh actually in every company you have front of line and end of line. So front of line is that you receive something from raw material and then you do every processing when you receive the material. End of line is something that I mean the product is ready to ship. Okay, so for example inspection machine, uh, automated optical inspection machine. So the front of line would be all the parts, a module, separate module to mount, to get in the what you call JEDEC tray, get in the JEDEC tray, get in the wheels and etc. All these are considered front of line. So the coding and all is also the front of line. So after that, no, coding should be the back end. So later on, after that, you mount everything together to become one machine, so-called the AOI machine. So the end of line, EOL, we call it as FOL and EOL. This is very common terms in industry. FOL is front of line, EOL is end of line. So end of line will try to do all the inspection. Oh, is this machine perform as you want, something like that. So this is the EOL job. After the verification, they will ship this machine out. So this is sort of the pipelines. So the die is I mean, when you want to build out a PCB, you need to start from a die. After you're getting, I mean, you inspect your die, you will assembly the die inside the IC. And after I mean, mount it in the IC, you will put it in the PCB board. So after you're putting in the PCB board, for example, you are manufacturing for iPhone. So this PCB board will then fix inside the iPhone and then another process. Basically, one of these, every of these stage, for example, inspect the die alone or manufacture the die alone, or you just put in the die inside the IC alone, or you just inspect the PCB alone, or you mount the IC inside the PCB alone. You can able, I mean, this will create one company. Every stage will create one company. Okay. For example, when you manufacture die, manufacture die and inspect die is different things. Manufacture die, which means you make the die from raw material. So for example, ABC. ABC is one company from US. They are manufacturing the die. Inspection the die, MIE. Inspection the PCB, ETROPS. ETROPS are not going to inspect the die, they are going to inspect the PCB board. So that is why they got the 2D and 3D. For the die, you don't need 3D. You only need surface inspection. So this is example we chop and then mount it together. Maybe at this line, maybe you have Vanessa. All these are one company with only one role. Okay, so please do not think that, oh, just inside a die is very small case. It's not. So just inspect one die. You can create one company with a different production line to do this stuff. Okay, so this is industrial. So back to here, you have one die. So this is the orientation pin. Usually you will have an orientation pin and you will have sort of number. This number is referring to the entire lot. For example, a lot is a lot of LOT. It's a production lot. Usually production lot consists of maybe 6K or maybe up to 10K units. Usually you use a trolley. Use a trolley to, push into the production line. So each of these one will have around 6K. So in the production line, maybe one day you would have 4 to 5 lots, depends on the production rate. Okay. So this usually to refer to the number of the particular lot. And this is for traceability. Metric code is for traceability. Okay. Traceability, which means you want to trace back which die is actually has defects. And if yes, what is the defect types? Okay. So erosion and dilations, because when you want to inspect this die surface, the die surface, um, the matrix code and also the orientation pin and also the numbering or whatever alphabet might have, very soft marking. I would say very soft marking, something like that. Okay, so because the marking, the technology they're using is thresholding because it's faster smart. So when you threshold, you might have a broken character. So a broken character, you cannot recognize the ID. You cannot recognize the ID. So what they're using dilation and opening. Maybe usually we are using dilation to join together this broken character to become one character, and then use correlations to read this as 1, 2, 3, because they need to read the number of the pin. Number of this lot and also recognize the matrix code, because you have another database. You need to match with the database. So if you fail to read the number here, then this die is considered as reject die. Every reject die, which means the company lost money. Okay, so that is the reason why you need to learn erosion and also dilation. This is very important when you, uh, I mean, next time, if let's say you are working, especially in inspection company, all this skill is very essential. Okay, so this would be part of the application for erosion and dilations. Okay, and yeah, so please do, I mean, maybe whatever you learn here would be something fundamental. Oh, I know thresholding. Oh, I know morphology operation. But when it's come to applications, you cannot recall that actually erosions or actually dilation or actually thresholding can resolve this applications issue. Okay, whatever appear in the exam would be something like that. It wouldn't be ask you, okay, perform erosion using a SE, something like that. Not like that lah. Okay, so please do expect you have application wise, because as I always mention, in senior year you would expect to have C6, which is more on the higher cognitive level, whereby you need to apply whatever you learn in the application. Engineering, no matter what types of engineering, you are always dealing with application based. No matter chemical, electrical, electronics, you are trying to apply whatever you learn in your application to resolve the issue. Okay, and this is how lah. Okay, this is how engineering works lah. But nonetheless, engineering quite seldom to have more on integrations, integration of cross field, maybe field A, field B, and then you integrate both of the technology together to resolve a particular issue. But later on in research, you're actually, for example, A and B, you apply to solve an issue. But in research, from A alone, you can upgrade to become A plus. And then from A plus, you should have a better performance than A. And then you apply it with a better improvement, something like that. Okay. So this is the different things. But to be frank, in Malaysia R&D, it's quite rare lah, to be frank. In Malaysia R&D, we are more on integrations, integrate whatever you have in a creative manner. But to be frank, especially in MNC, a multinational company, most of the R&D, although you have R&D engineer and usually R&D engineer with a higher salary, but nonetheless, in Malaysia, the R&D is usually more on product development, which means you develop the product with a ready protocol. Of course, you can integrate something else, but the application, I mean the creativity there is a bit lesser. And for MNC, usually the core, which is from US, UK, or whatever the headquarter, they will give you a sample guideline for you to follow, something like that. So your creativity can be applied within that guideline, something like that. So this is whatever we are. I mean, the real world is happening right now, lah. Okay. So fundamental in morphological, I will not really mention the fundamental because you already done the lab and also done the assignment. So I assume you are already quite well versed in terms of um, especially the opening, the closing, and etc. lah. Okay, but nonetheless, always remember erosion, dilation, closing, opening. Although it is sometimes it might be, I mean, quite easy, but please make sure which one is foreground, which one is background. Okay, if you I mean inverted it, erosion can be looks like the dilation, and dilation can be looks like erosion. Okay, and in different software, you might have a different foreground and different background. It depends on the software. For example, in MATLAB, I think white color is the foreground, right? And black color is the background. You can reconfirm back. But nonetheless, the question won't ask you in MATLAB what is the foreground, what color is foreground. It won't ask something like that. Okay. But nonetheless, you have to know the dilation and erosion, opening and closing is actually applied on the foreground. Okay. So not applied in the background. And the another thing is that although the dilation erosions you all are quite well versed, I mean, you know how to use. But when it comes to definitions, you all must be able to write out, okay? Because sometimes you may know um how it is actually applied, but when you want to describe, you may describe it wrongly, something like that, especially in erosion and also dilations. So please aware of this. And structure element is one of the very important parts in the morphological operation because structure element is the things that would decide the output. Okay, so in MATLAB you have different types of structure elements, right? For example, this circle, rectangle, maybe line, something like that lah. So different application you should use different structure element. Some of you in the assignment did compare with several types of structure element. For example, you apply, I think it's assignment question 2. You did compare with this circle and rectangle, and then you compare the result and you justify why you actually select this or why you select do not select rectangle or line, and you show that the result, of the coins is actually not so nice when I mean, you have a pixel base. I mean, like a blocky field, especially when you're using line or rectangle. So this is a very good justification because basically in assignment, we are not really um, setting the guideline, you should how to answer the question, but instead you should have your own justification to justify why you select this one. But I mean, you have solution A, B, C, and why you select B, not C, something like that. Okay. So although you just propose using this is correct, but nonetheless, a strong discussion and also strong justification should come from, I mean, should justify from different selections. When you establish different selection, you have to let me know why you establish solution A, B, and C. But of course, in examination, you don't need to do that. You just need to give the answer. That's all. Okay. So the SD can be any size and any shape. do not actually think that SE only the T, which is 3 times 3, not a must. Okay, you can be any size. And what would be the effect if this T change in shape and also increase in size? And usually, the morphological operation is correlated with padding. Most of the time, it is correlated with padding. But of course, as I mentioned in the examination, if let's say you will, the final output, you can draw or without drawing the padding. If let's say you have this kind of question, okay, because in MATLAB, in practical, you don't actually increase in size, lah. Okay, before the processing should be 100 times 100. After the processing, you should have 100 and 100. But during the processing, you would add in the padding. Okay, and the padding you have three types, right? Zero padding, reflection, and also mirror, right? Three have three different padding. So make sure you know how this padding works, especially for reflection and mirror, because it is um quite similar, quite similar. Okay, but by default, the padding should be zero padding lah. It's the easiest one. Of course, if you wish to use a new padding, for example, I want to use white padding. Um, I think I'm not sure if MATLAB got white padding, but actually it's doable lah. Okay, actually if you want to use, it's doable lah. But make sure you can justify lah. Okay, try not to propose something doable lah. I would say. Okay, the another thing is that you have to aware of the center of the structure element, because for different center you have different effect. Even though you have a cross shapes, if let's say this is the center, so the effect will be different, even though the padding pattern will be different. Okay, so which means that if you have something like this one, if let's say you have something like this one, so basically, you may not, the padding in on top of the image may not be necessary, because let's say this is the image. So this is the very first block. So when you have a padding here, so which means this is the extra padding, but you may not need any padding on top of it, lah. Okay. Do not forget the function of padding, no matter zero, mirror, or reflection, is meant to allow any local operations can be applied without any syntax error. That is the main purpose. Okay. So it is not a must to have any. The padding must be, applied at each of the boundary. As long as you can apply your SE or whatever local operation, then we'll do. Okay, so that is how it is being applied. So, um, okay, another thing is that especially when you apply, because all the local operations would have the similar, you may require the padding to help, especially when you're processing the boundary pixel, especially when you're processing the boundary pixel. But I think you all would aware, especially some in your assignment, you will find that why I use a median filter to filter up the salt and pepper noise, but especially near to the boundary, you will find that one or two salt or pepper noise still present after you apply the filter. That is because sometimes you apply the filter. If you because when you want to debug something else, you want to deduce that, oh, maybe the filter is something wrong with the filter. If let's say the same issue, one or two salt and pepper noise still occur after you apply the median filter, especially at the center of the image, then perhaps you can suspect that your median filter window something wrong. But if let's say only one or two still occurs, especially at the boundary, it's because you can check back what is the padding types. If let's say the padding type is zero, maybe, so after you apply that, for example, you have a lot of zero, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. 111. Okay. So after you get the median value, the value after you arrange in ascending order is still zero. So that is why the center pixel still remain as zero or some other possibility. But you can deduce by, I mean, you can justify something like this one. Okay. So um, this is the reason why, because sometimes uh, you do not expect that you have one, for example, we all know that the medium filter can resolve top and pepper noise, right? I think after the assignment, you all are quite agree with this one. But nonetheless, if let's say this kind of issue happens and the question asks justify, you should able to answer by, I mean, based on the fundamental of medium filter, okay? Because um, this is what we are looking for, to be frank. Okay, do not expect. I mean, yeah, the medium filter should be able to I mean, supposed to be able to resolve the salt and pepper noise. But why is this still happen? So you can raise up the possibility. This is what actually the industry are looking for, especially in the engineer lah. Okay, we actually we know that salt and pepper noise can be resolved by medium filter. But when you apply salt and pepper noise, but when you apply medium filter, the salt and pepper noise, some of it still remain there. This is usually what you are going to solve. Okay, for example, by pressing the on button, the switch, I mean, the light should be turned on. But when you press the on button, the switch, I mean, the light is not on. So you need to justify why, something like that. But of course, your justification must be based on some evidence or any reasoning lah. Okay, so this is what we expect from the engineer. Okay, we do not expect this one from the technicians. So that is why engineer, I mean, during diploma, you are more on hands-on, but you are less likely to have proposing something else, less likely to propose something else. But in engineer, you would always require, especially in senior year, you would always require to give justification, to propose new method, and maybe to differentiate, to compare, to highlight the difference, something like that. Because diploma is meant to shape technicians, prepare someone to be a technician, and the degree is meant to prepare someone to become an engineer. Okay, there would be a different role over there. And if you are from the diploma, you will find that perhaps you will have a better balance in terms of practical and also fundamental and also in terms of coding. Okay, so this is actually what we are tackling for lah. Okay, so the another thing is that although this is not the core, I mean, we are not really I mean focusing on this part, but you have to know that the sign. For example, the question may not ask you to perform dilations or erosions or maybe opening or closing, but simply give you the symbol. So you should able to know um, this symbol is actually referring to what. Okay, and the basic terms, for example, U is union, this is intersect, this is an element of something like that. Although this is not the main focus of MTAA, but the basic syntax, especially in terms of the symbol, union, and or you should know lah. Okay, so this is it. Okay, erosion is meant to shrink the background. To shrink the foreground. So um, you should know how it's being applied. You should know how this is being applied. So whenever you apply this one, you should expect a padding over here surrounding the input image. Okay. So if the question requests you to draw I mean some of the step, especially in terms of erosions or maybe dilations, make sure you draw it accordingly lah. Okay, if you did not draw this one, basically should be incorrect lah. Okay, because nonetheless I know that it would be automatic padding with zero or maybe mirror and etc. But nonetheless, in examination, the main purpose is to test if you know. So if let's say you know, but you did not back it up, which means you don't know lah. Okay, that is the only justification we have. So always remember to check which one is the center. So this is for erosions. So when it is applied, the erosions are since not all the pixel underneath the orange block, which is the structure element, are foreground. Thus, the output pixel as the X is the background. Okay. The law by the rules of heat and what heat and fit. Okay, heat and fit is different for erosion and dilation. So please make sure that it is not something directly inverse for dilation and also erosion. So for this one, because not all the block underneath the orange block are foreground. First, the output pixel of X is background. Okay, and continue so on and so forth. So because this one is not the blue color, which means you don't have a foreground underneath all the orange block. So that is why this is considered erode away or eliminate away. The same thing until this one, since all the pixel underneath the orange block or the SC lah, okay, are foreground, thus the output of pixel X is foreground. So this is how this is being applied. This is being applied until you get the final image of this one. Okay, of this one. But actually, once you understand the rules and regulation of the basic principle of dilation erosion, it is not something very difficult. Okay, it is not something very difficult. But nonetheless, if you are not sure, then it would be a bit confusing. Okay. No matter how complex is the SE, for example, it is a block, maybe this is the block. Oh, I should remove this one. Okay. For example, this is the X. So you just apply as it is. Okay, just apply as it is. Just follow the rules and regulation. Is it everything? Every block underneath the SE is the foreground. If yes, then you retain. If no, only sheet, then you remove it for erosions. Okay. So this is the final block. And the other thing is that please do away of the question, the marks given. If let's say the marks is, given you this one and given you maybe this one with a sentence here and ask you to perform the say erosions and the mark is 25. Oh, then you only draw this one and draw this one, habis lah. Okay. So please always check the marks given. The questions may ask you to draw, but it may not ask you to draw how in depth it is. So please answer the question according to the marks given. Okay, if the question is given 10 marks or maybe somewhere around that, you should have an answer which is matched to the 10 marks lah. Okay, I found that this is not something um very commonly across the students, especially when I ask you all to check the rubrics. Um, I'm not sure if you all are not really willing to score according to the rubrics or what, but when I keep on emphasize or please check the rubrics, and then because the rubrics always describe, right, you give this kind of answer, you would expect what kind of score, something like that. But nonetheless, for junior year, maybe second year, I think, and also the final year, some students feel like it's okay because whenever for example, the conclusion is something else, it's around 9 marks, right? But only give me two sentences. How should I give you 9 marks? So is the 9 marks not so important? I'm not so sure because to me, I think 9 marks is quite a lot. Okay, but I think that most of the students did not give me a very comprehensive conclusions in assignment and also lab. So that is one of the, something that you need to aware of lah. But of course, in the next time when you work, you don't have something like this one. Okay, don't have marks given. But nonetheless, um, the quality of an engineer is how he or she can give quality job. Okay, this is something This is something very common. Okay, if you only give your job very chin chai, it's very obvious, to be frank. People will know, especially when you prepare the report, because later on when you work, no matter what field you are, you would ask to prepare a report to show the whatever you propose or whatever you analyze is doable, something like that for customer. But when your report is, a lot of thing is not in, I mean, most of the content is not inside. So you would, um, your manager will be very subtle. He will ask you, oh, please add on this one, add on that one, add on this one, add on that one. So this is why we so call those people as junior engineer. As a senior engineer, you would be able to know what is the requirement and answer the question accordingly. Okay, you don't need to give a lengthy. I'm not asking for lengthy report or whatsoever. Even though in your I mean examinations, if let's say the marks is 10 marks, I'm not asking for lengthy answer. I'm asking for answer with point which worth 10 marks. Okay, please do not misunderstand them. So let's say you have a discussion, for example, 30 marks with 3 marks for reference, right? So if you give me 8 reference, which is latest, so the 3 marks is belong to yours. But some of you did not give me the reference lah, okay, which means you are not willing to get the 3 marks. So that it is. And for the 27 mark, I'm not asking for lengthy. I mean something keep on repeating, but you should think of how to score the marks based on the description in the rubrics. Okay, so in later on, no matter it's for research, in research, of course, I mean, you might be think more comprehensive lah. But if you are working as an engineer, I hope at least you have some requirement on your own output. It's for your own good only. Okay, it's for your own good. Of course, you know lah. Some people, when you enter a company, you will know lah. People will say, oh, these people do things very chin chai one. So the manager will never ask him or her to do something. But sometimes people would think it's okay, it's good lah. Because manager don't ask me to do things, which means I got less job, right? But at the same time, you don't complain when you don't have any bonus and whatsoever lah. Whatever you paid off, you would get the reward. If you did not get the reward and you feel like why it is keep on like this happen, and you think that you did perform, it's time for you to leave the company, something like that. Okay, so anyhow, you all will know later on lah. This is live lah. Okay, so although in SE, I mean in structured element, you can have different to answer any question, especially in examinations. Of course, you have different approach. For example, in the assignment, you can actually use. I mean, most of you are using opening lah to. I mean, for example, question 2 in your assignment, which is the coins. The question with the coin. So most of you are using opening. But if let's say you are using erosions, it's okay. Just that the result is it optimized, you are not actually answering I mean give a wrong answer lah. Because basically in assignment and etc you don't really have a wrong answer. And also, for example, I ask for reduce the size of the video clip. Some of you may have alternate, right? Some of you just crop it, like actually it's fine. Just that it depends on how you justify it. Because this is an open answer lah, an open answer, so you can do whatever approach you have to get the an intended answer. But in examinations, it's more or less. For example, the question is asking something like, please remove the connection between these two. You can apply whatever method you have, as long as the requirement request by the question you fulfill. That's all. Okay, so this is the way you answer the question. But of course, you have solution A, B, and C, but maybe only B is the optimized one. But if you propose question, I mean solution A, B, and C is okay. Depends on the nature, but in examination should be okay. But if in research and etc., that is not okay lah. Because in research we always talk about optimization and why you propose this one. Okay, and eventually later on I mean if you are interested to apply for chartered engineer, professional engineer, you need to very aware of this as well lah. Okay, because this is part of the competency. I think competency B, competency B. Yeah, that one later on. If you are interested to apply for chartered engineer and IR, you can ask me as well. Okay. So dilation, dilation is something uh, to some extent, the function is a bit inverse of erosion. But in terms of the descriptions, I mean, the hit and miss theory is a bit different, not directly inverse lah. Okay, so please do not the function is yes directly inverse, which means the erosion is meant to reduce the size of the foreground, and dilation is meant to increase the size of the foreground. But the hit and miss theory will be a bit different. So please do not directly, inverse whatever you learn in hit and miss and put it in the dilation for definition. You might get a wrong answer. And this is a symbol for dilation. So dilation is meant to, dilate the pixel, especially the boundary pixel. Okay, so if let's say you have a so-called a hole, for example, if you have a hole, something like this one, so the dilation might be able to close up the hole. Okay, but closing can do the same thing as well. But provided the closing can do the same thing because the closing for closing the first things to the first operation is dilation, right? And then by closing sorry, by erosion, right? So you have dilation first. You have dilation. You have dilation first in then by erosion. Okay, so closing should be able to close up this one. But when you apply closing, when you apply closing to this one, if you cannot close up the hole, why? You apply closing, supposing, because whatever we learn, we apply closing, we suppose able to close up the hole, right? So the question asks, let's say you apply the closing, but the hole did not close up. Why? Give the reason. And maybe 5 marks, something like that. So what would be your justifications? Expect something like this one. Okay. um the size of SE. Yes, this is the answer, the size of SE. But of course you don't give me, since it is 5 mark, you don't give me the size of SE alone lah. Maybe you justify a bit lah. Because nonetheless if you want to close up anything for example closing, you should close up something else. Opening, you should open up two connected item object, right? So if let's say you want to close up this one, but the SE or after apply the dilations, for example, the dilation, I use different color. So after you apply the dilations, you apply until here. The green color is the additional area after you apply the dilations. So if let's say after you apply the dilation, you get something like this one. Yes, the dilation did function well, whereby you can dilate in size, no matter in outer boundary and the inner boundary, but the dilation or the SE is insufficient to close up the hole. So this is why after you apply the dilation, and then you are closing apply dilation and then followed by erosion, right? So after you apply erosions, you let me use another color. Maybe you erosion is to reduce in the size, right? So you reduce again, and usually dilation and erosions is applied using the same SE. So which means after you apply and remove, you would get back something similar to the original one. Okay, so that is the reason why you cannot, yes, supposing apply closing, you can close up a hole, but now you apply closing, why you did not able, you're unable to close up the hole. This would be the reason. Okay, so in examination, expect something like this one. Okay, um, justify, and nothing is, the justification is nothing out of your syllabus. Everything is inside the syllabus. Just that the different level of thinking would be something like this one. Okay. You might have question asked you to define, but usually would be the A or B of the questions. and then later on would be more on deeper and deeper into application based either or something like this one. Okay, do expect something like this one. So please do not just memorize the lecture notes. Okay, may not be may not may not be a good practice for senior year subject. Okay, so we move on. The dilations. Okay, let me go through this one a bit. So since the original x, sorry, original, since the origin x is foreground, then all pixels underneath the orange block will be turned into foreground. So which means if your sheet, I mean the pixel underneath the center here of the SC is foreground. So you will actually declare this one as foreground and this one as foreground as well. So continue to move on and etc. until the end. So you would expect something. Where is the final output? Oh, I did not give you the final output. The final output should be somewhere. Okay. So this is the final output. Okay, the green color, sorry, this is the final output. The green color is the additional output. Okay. So provided this is the SE, and if let's say the SE is being changed, so so you may have a different answer, different output. Okay. Always remember again, please answer the question according to the marks given. Okay, answer the question according to the marks given. If the marks given is, I mean, maybe sometimes you know that you can describe very good for these questions, but the marks given is only two words. Please do not waste your time to write a long question. Okay, summarize your answer well and put it in. Okay, because when you spend too many times in one question, you may not have sufficient time to complete the whole examinations. Okay, and again, you all been quite a while did not use your pen. Please practice that. Okay, because I myself feel so because I've been quite a while did not use pen. Even when I use pen, to answer the hard copy um, questions, it's a bit difficult to me, to be frank. It's a bit difficult. And the writing starting to, especially during the end of the question, to be frank, this one, I did experience this one. Okay. Because we've been using the laptop all the while during MCO for 2 years already. Okay, so different SE, you would expect a different answer. So this is the SE, I mean type 1 and type 2. So if you apply this one, you would expect, um, not really expect, you cannot expect anything, just that you apply this one in and you will found that the answer, I mean, the effect is a bit different. Okay, I would not say that which one is the best in multimedia. Always depends on the applications because we don't really have a best solutions for anything. For example, medium filter is very good. But in case, I mean, in the sense that you resolve the salt and pepper. But if let's say comes to Gaussian noise, maybe not the case. So it very depends on what is the circumstance. So if let's say you want to give an example, for example, you want to give an example, make sure you demarcate the boundary as well. For example, medium filter is very good. Do not end your answer over there. Maybe you can continue. It's very good, especially to resolve salt and pepper noise, something like that. Give a full sentence. Okay, give a sentence which is so-called, I mean, self-contained. Okay, self-contained is something which means by looking at your sentence, I understand what you want. I understand the message you want to deliver. If I look in your sentence, I don't understand the message you want to deliver, then I have to guess. Okay, I'm not sure if I make it correct. Okay, but that is what you show me. Sometimes maybe you know a lot of things, but if you did not write it out, which means you don't know. Okay, everything is based on evidence. Okay, so just okay, this is okay. Okay, so original image, and then you dilation by 3 times 3, and this is dilation by 5 times 5. So the square, so maybe the question will ask you what is the effect if you apply 3 times 3, and what is the effect, I mean the effect if you apply a 5 times 5 filter blocks. Depends on the questions, So this is one of the questions whereby you have salt and pepper noise. So after you apply the I think yeah, I think more on pepper noise. So after you apply this, yeah, again another thing is that please look into the questions what type of noise it is. Impulse noise is something else. Impulse noise we mean it is extreme lah, either 0 or maybe 255, which is black and white. But not a must. I mean, the white color noise we call it as salt noise. The black color we call it as purple. But not a must. In one image you have both noise. Some image could have only salt, could have only pepper. It depends. Okay, so answer the question accordingly, and then discuss what is the effect. Okay. Dilation can be used to get the edge as well. For example, for example, this is white color is foreground. So you dilate this one, so you would expect I mean, larger object, right? And then later on, you erode this one, you will get a smaller object, right? So when you minus out, I mean, the difference, find the difference of these two objects, you will find the edge, okay? But of course, the edge wouldn't be so optimized when you compare to um, Kenny or maybe Sobel or whatsoever, because it is obtained by using simply the differences of the dilation and erosion image. It is not actually looking in for any, I mean, looking into any adverse, I mean, uh, adverse change, for example, black to white, something like that. So you have first derivative and second derivative. So first derivative, what I mean, what you can get. For second derivative, what you can get. You have to know that one. And if let's say Kenny is the best, why Kenny is the best? Okay, there must be a reason. Okay, so the same apply opening. Maybe the question can ask you why I apply opening, I cannot open this one. Okay, something like that. Um, closing. Basically, closing and also opening would be just the I mean combination of erosion and dilations. Nothing much. Um, yeah. Any questions? Before we end? No? Okay, let me check. Okay, so I think that's all. So again, sir, for the next Tuesday class, please, if you have any objections, please let Chia know. If none, I mean, until Monday, so we will consider it as I mean, conduct as usual, lah. Okay. But the class will be online, lah. Okay, please do not come for physical class. Okay. Uh, and next Tuesday would be the last class and last tutorial. Okay, that's all. Remember to join in the briefing later on. Yeah, you can join in now already. Please, everyone, please join in the briefing. Thank you. You all may leave and join in the briefing. Bye bye.